My side of the bag, I'm Drew Hinesley. He's Scotty Worldwide. Scotty, how you doing today?
Good. Good to be here. Good to have an off week. Good to not be walking up any crazy hills of the errands. And super excited because it is full on major season. We obviously just completed the women's side of the U.S. Open and looking forward to now, in a week's time, the men go to very special shirt you're wearing there, Drew. Oakmont for their U.S. Open. So super excited for the U.S. Open.
Yeah, big week in golf as we just finished up Maya Stark, the winner of the Women's U.S. Open. We just finished sectional qualifying, so now the field is
Us.
complete. Maybe save for a winner at the Canadian Open this week on the PGA Tour. But yeah, we know who's going to be in the U.S. Open. We're starting to get a little bit more video on social media of the golf course at Oakmont, course that I know well. Man, really pulling for them to not touch a blade of grass between now and next Sunday because they're going to get a little bit of rain. I think Tuesday, Wednesday, there's some forecast for some rain, and actually over the weekend. So we're not going to get that firm, fast, almost Hoylake-like brownout of Oakmont. So I really want the rough to be up. So now the penalty for missing a shot is just horrendous. And that way we get maybe an even par, possibly hoping against hope here, we get an over par winning score because I'm not caddying in the event. And if you're not caddying in the event as a fan, you just want to see some carnage.
Yeah.
So, and I'll be there working with NBC. And boy, I have a feeling I'm going to have my eagle eyes out to spot a few of these balls because I'm telling you, if you're this far off the fairway, the marshals aren't going to be that close to spot where that ball goes in. So I'm going to be working really hard with my groups, just making sure everybody gets their ball. Nobody steps on a golf ball in that Oakmont rough. I'm so excited. So thanks to everybody tuning in on Instagram, YouTube, Spotify. Thank you, everybody from the Back Nine Brief that's tuning in. We're going to give you a little bit of a U.S. Open preview at Oakmont. We've done a couple of these previews as the year's gone on, but now we're right up against the tournament. And now we know guys like Jackson Coyven, who gets through in the Atlanta sectional. Will Chandler gets through in the Atlanta sectional. We've got a lot of guys qualifying for a U.S. Open. Max Homa making news for carrying his own bag after yet another caddy split.
Yeah, and you have some updates on that, Drew, which we'll give our audience, right?
Yeah, well, we'll go ahead and give the audience. This is a caddy show, so we'll give you the caddy the caddy rotation as we have it now. So we've got Bill Harkey, who was on the bag for Max at the Masters and the PGA Championship, made both cuts after playing pretty poorly for the better part of 6 months. Bill, for some reason, no longer on the job after Joe Griner quit to go work for Colin Morikawa. The reason I say that is Lance Bennett now leaves Michael Thorbjornsen to go work for Max Homa, and Michael Thorbjornsen, he goes and gets J.J. Jakovac, who Morikawa let go a couple months ago. So there's the rotating caddy switch, musical chairs, if you will, at the pro level. So one guy leaves one guy, and then the guy that was on the outside looking in lands a pretty good bag. I'm telling you, if I'm Lance Bennett, I'm not sure I want Max Homa over Michael Thorbjornsen. Max Homa, great player. Last year was in the feature pairing first two rounds with Bryson DeChambeau and Victor Hovland. This year, he's not playing in the U.S. Open. That's a pretty big fall in 12 months' time. And that's where Lance has gone. And J.J. Jakovac now lands another very talented young guy who went to college in the Bay Area at Stanford.
Yep.
And this kid, Nota Begay, who played at Stanford, friend of mine, told me Michael Thorbjornsen might be the next Dustin Johnson. And Nota told me that 3 years ago after he had just completed his freshman year at Stanford. So this kid's very talented, maybe getting an experienced guy like JJ, who's now a two-time major winner, also won so many tournaments with Ryan Moore in a previous job. This guy's got all the experience you need if you're a young player. I would feel very, very excited. And I'd be buying the Michael Thorbjornsen stock right now for the rest of this summer and in 2026, knowing that JJ's out there guiding him along.
That was so awesome. I love the fact that we got the inside there, and Drew gives our listeners and our audience because that stuff you can't get everywhere, and folks, you're only going to get it 101. So that was awesome.
Well, and all of that being said, all of those guys, none of those guys are participating in the U.S. Open at Oakmont.
But you
Michael
are.
missed out. Michael missed out in the U.S. Open qualifier, and Max also missed out in the U.S. Open qualifier. So all those guys we just spoke about will be watching it from home, like most of you guys. I will be there working with Smiley Kaufman and the rest of my colleagues at NBC, and we are so excited to host a U.S. Open at Oakmont. It is the best test, I think, for a U.S. Open, right up there with Winged Foot and Shinnecock. I think they're just um, they're just the quintessential U.S. Open test. There's some short par fours, some long par fours, some medium length par threes. There's a 300-yard par three, which I love, and you know that. So I took a guy yesterday back to the 262 tee on the ninth hole at East Lake, and he was like, "I don't know why we have to make par threes so long." I'm like, "I love them. I think you got to hit every club in the bag in a round of golf, and the long par threes ensure that these tour players are hitting their 2, 3, 4 irons, 4 woods, whatever they are. That's the only time they're going to hit them, either that or on an approach to a par five. And at Oakmont, we've got two 600-yard par fives, which I love. And they both play downhill, and they both give you chances to bounce balls in, one right to left, the other left to right. So I love how you got to shape the ball both directions at Oakmont. Again, first hole, you're trying to hit it straight like a bowling pin and down the middle. And then number two is a short par four. Three, you got the church pews. Four is a par five. It's such an exciting course. And again, a guy like a Scotty Scheffler who has total control of working it in the different windows, different directions. He's your odds-on favorite, and there's a very good reason for that, coming off a win at Memorial, where our boy Ted Scott, maybe one of
Hey.
the coolest victory videos he's ever done. He's getting pretty famous for this. These are starting to go viral. And on this one, he included the entire locker room staff in his memorial victory dance, complete with a guy jumping in the corner with one of the famous Muirfield milkshakes. What a fun video from Ted, and their 16th victory since the 2021 Super Bowl. I was at that event, and we've documented every one of these 16 wins. He's on a list, fastest to 16 wins. He's fourth on the list. Who are the first three? Sam Snead, Jack Nicklaus, Tiger Woods. That's pretty good foursome to be a part of. What do you say?
Yeah, and he's slowly inching up this money list all time. Um, I think he's third now and getting closer and closer to Rory.
Yeah, I mean, again, with the inflated purses, those stats going to get skewed fairly quickly. I remember, I think Nolan Ryan was the first $1 million baseball player.
Wow.
I think Donald Trump made Herschel Walker the first $1 million football player. So it just shows you how quickly things have gone. Now we've got guys signing in baseball for $600-700 million contracts. So in a very short period of time, just like in the game of golf, the I think I want to say Jack Nicklaus, his first check was it around $350? I think I'll have to go back and research that. Something ridiculous though, and the way the money has inflated in golf, Scotty Scheffler is going to be. He'll surpass
Yeah.
Tiger in
Yeah.
a pretty short period of time,
Yeah.
just because Tiger wasn't playing for $20 million purses.
Correct. Drew, I want to go back to Oakmont, and obviously you've spent a lot of time there. You know the golf course well. From a caddy perspective, because one of the things I thought about Aaron Hills is how well the yardage book was, how well the course was marked. Is Oakmont marked very well? I mean, are caddies going to have to do when they get there? Are they going to have to check or check heads that aren't in the book? How do you think that goes?
No, Oakmont's marked very well. Again, the USGA does a good job at their sites now. You and I, maybe not you, but I definitely grew up going to places, even at U.S. Opens, where there were some heads that
Yeah.
were not marked, maybe long par fives, and they just thought nobody's going to go from here. But we still need to know what our layup numbers are. So that has changed. Everything's well marked now. The problem at Oakmont is if you hit one offline, the fifth hole is a great example here. If you hit one a little offline and you're looking for your sprinkler head over here in the right rough, you're going to have to look through some pretty heavy rough, and you'll have an idea 1, 2, 3, 4 bunkers where you are.
Yeah.
But you know that trust but verify kind of situation we all have in our heads. You never want to give a bad number. I want to see it on the ground where I'm standing. And so you get some of these heads, and then if you lay up on 5, you've got these sprinkler heads over here in the rough, and those are the hardest things to find. And actually, when I'm out working with TV, that's actually something I'll do. I'll just stand pointing my finger down like, hey, you're going to want to walk off this head, because
Yeah.
I'm out there ahead of the guys getting numbers for television
Right.
and PGA Tour productions and all that. And so I'm kind of walking around the area. So when I find a head close by and I know somebody's a little offline and they need to move quickly, I'll be pointing to that head. Hey, look down in that dark place right there. There's a number on that head. There's no sunlight on it, but there's a number on it. So again, in that heavy rough at Oakmont, that'll be the toughest challenge, is just finding the heads when you hit it a little bit offline, and that's going to happen. And
Yep.
even a place like number 5 where you're hitting less than driver off the tee, because you're trying to hit 275 to 290 off the tee there, leave yourself a wedge in your hand. Even those shots, there's a dispersion, and they're going to miss some left and right, and you're going to get in some bad spots. And then the par 5s, and with Oakmont with no trees, I'm a little bit curious to see if the USGA is going to create some internal OB, because there's a situational number 4 where you could take it way right up the 5th fairway and have an excellent angle into that green, which from the 4th fairway is from right to left at a 45-degree angle. But from the 5th fairway, you're straight up the barrel, and it's actually maybe a slightly shorter yardage. And then you have the same thing with the 1st and the 10th greens are pitched so much from the front of the green to the back that if you're on number 1 and you send it 100 yards left down number 9, the slope on 9 helps you draw it, and maybe to a back left pin, you can draw it in rather than trying to play straight down a steep green. And the same way, number 11, the way it's positioned, guys in the USAM in 2021 were sending it way left, hitting up the 10th fairway, trying to fade one into front right flags on 11. So there's a lot of situations where you could actually play off the hole you're on intentionally to get a better angle, get a better ball flight. And if they don't have internal out of bounds, everyone, not just the fans, but players. Bones tells a story of Keegan Bradley doing that in the 2016 U.S. Open, and he sent one whizzing by the ear of Henrik Stenson, who was completely unaware that he was in the hot zone. So players and caddies and people walking with groups are just as much in danger there of players playing from one hole to the next. So if the USGA does not institute internal OB at Oakmont, you're going to have some heads on swivels out there wondering which guy is going which way.
Yeah.
And you may have to, as you're walking down 10, you may have to look down at 11T and see if somebody's lined up at your fairway, and then just hold everybody up so nobody takes one in the temple.
Fair. And that is obviously a cause of concern from an organizational standpoint. But I also think that it's cool, and like I think creativity to try to do some of that stuff is fun in the game. So I hope they don't take that out.
Well, again, it's fun, but when you have, 50, 60,000 people on the grounds and you have 155 other competitors and caddies walking around and you've just got stray bullets flying, that can get a little bit dangerous. So from an insurance perspective, from an actuary perspective, you want as little risk as you can get, right? And
Yeah.
obviously this is a business venture and we don't want to pay out millions of dollars in insurance fees. So you do have to have those considerations
No doubt.
as an organization like the USGA. So we'll see if they put some internal OB and just say, hey, if you're off the fairway, or if you're on a different fairway than the hole you're playing, you're out of bounds. I mean, that could change the way everybody looks at this golf course. It can be very appealing to a guy like a Bryson who
Yep.
can hit it extreme amounts. And just like at Winged Foot, when they grew it up in September, and that rough at Winged Foot was so awful, and he just ran away from the field. because instead of hitting 7-irons from the rough, he was hitting wedges from the rough, which is much more manageable. This could be a similar situation. And you start giving Bryson the option of hitting 4 different fairways just out of pure intellectual curiosity. He's going to play 4 different ways on 4 different days just to say he did it. And that may be his secret to victory.
Greg Bodine will have some long days of prep up there, huh?
I bet you Greg Bodine is doing some Google Earth searches as we speak.
Yeah.
Getting all the different parameters that are possible for his boss, because I promise you, he played well there in 2016. It was his first major as a professional. He wants to go back and pick up a trophy and go back to back. Only 2 men have done that recently. That's Curtis Strange and Brooks Koepka. So now Bryson's trying to become the third guy, like his live counterpart, to win back-to-back U.S. Opens. And I don't see why he wouldn't be right there in the hunt on the weekend.
Yeah, I know. I know you know his game well, and you know how he primes for big boy golf courses and big championships.
Well, and another thing they've done at Oakmont that Bryson's going to love is they upgraded the range in the practice facility. You can talk all you want about the golf course. Bryson's going to spend the bulk of his time, as we've all documented very well, Monday through Wednesday. He's going to be on that practice facility over to the left of 18 and 17. That's where he's going to spend most of his time. And now that's been upgraded to be much more state of the art, like these guys expect. He's going to wear that range out. And then when he gets on that golf course, he's going to try to put all that to work. And I expect a very good week out of Bryson.
Awesome. Well, should we make some picks?
Let's make some picks. I'll let you go first. We'll go with 3 picks apiece, okay. And we'll see who has the collective lower score at the end of the week.
Okay. And you want me to go first?
You go first. There's 2 pretty obvious choices. Let's see which one you take. I'll probably take the other.
I will take Scotty Scheffler.
Dadgummit. All right, I'll take Bryson.
Rory McIlroy.
See, that's where picking first. So you've got the top 2 players in the world. I've got Bryson, and then let's see, some guys trying to think of guys who have played well there in the past, but it's been so long since we had a U.S. Open there. Dustin Johnson won. I'm not picking DJ because he's just not in that kind of form. Angel Cabrera won there. It's not a Champions Tour event, so I'm not going to take him there. You know what? I think JT's trending in the right direction. Let's go with our boy Rev and his man JT with my second pick. All right. And then do I get the final third pick?
Yeah.
You know, I haven't taken my man Xander in a while in a major. I think it's time for he and his man Austin to sniff it again. I think we're going to see them playing really good here. It's a thinking man's golf course. Those are 2 of the smartest guys out there. So I'll take my man Xander.
I love that. Another big boy ballpark. Xander could do very well. Probably has more rounds under his belt. Healthy this year. I think iron play is going to be absolutely critical, and I think someone that manages themselves and misses pin high, and someone who kind of needs a big one who's come so close. I'm taking a new team. I'm taking Colin Morikawa and Joey Griner.
That could be a perfect setup for a guy like Colin, who, when he's on, is the closest thing I've ever seen live to Tiger Woods when it comes to irons.
Yes.
It's like video game golf when he's dialed in, and he's going to be one of those guys that's going to find more fairways than others because that's his strength, and that could be his key to victory is his accuracy and his ability to control those irons. That's a great pick. All right,
buddy.
Well, that's all we have for an Oakmont preview. Well, you know, before we go, let's go winning score. What are we going for winning? What are we going for the cut, and what do we think the winning score will be? Let's go Friday's cut, and then winning score. I'll start. I think you could shoot 2-3 overs and probably make the cut here this year. I really think 6 over par gets a tee time on Saturday. I think it's hard of a golf course.
I had 7 in my mind.
Okay.
I'll say 7.
I was going to say, which way are you going to hedge? You going to go 5 or 7? It's like The Price is Right.
I hope they hard to set it up hard, but I'll say 7.
I like
I'll say 7.
I like 7, and then what are we thinking? The guy holding the U.S. Open trophy post for 4 rounds of golf. I'll say even par. I think even par wins the tournament. I really believe it's that hard of a tournament. I really think if they can just leave it alone, and I think Mike Whan really wants to challenge the guys. I think we're going to have even par. There's going to be one guy that doesn't shoot over par.
Yeah, I just do. I just think, and I'm with you, and I think it's going to be hard. I just think these players are so good that you put enough good ones out there. Someone's or a couple of them figure it out for 4 days. I'll say 4 under.
I think 4 under is a very reasonable prediction. I just know how diabolical those greens are. And those greens, I mean, again, if I'm playing in the U.S. Open, we're recording this 9 days before the first round.
Yes.
If I was caddying at Oakmont this year, I'd be doing a rain dance for 9 days straight leading up. I want as soft of a first bounce into those greens as I could possibly get. And if you can somehow maybe play some sideboards with a little bit of rain and a little bit of spin control, you have a much better chance, because if you go over one of those humps, or if you're on the wrong side of a green, even the best in the world can look very silly very fast at that golf course. And I think everybody's going to run into some trouble at some point, and it's going to be the guys who understand, if I can just value par, I'm going to win the championship. 4 under is reasonable, though. I don't mind it.
Yeah.
I don't mind it.
Yeah, no, and I don't think the USGA would mind that either. I mean, that's someone that is golfing their ball for 4 days if they can manage 4 under out there. It's 1 under a day. I think that's manageable.
I mean, that's right where Bryson and Rory were last year, right? Just, a handful under par coming down the stretch. And that's the way the USGA likes it. There's some similarities in terms of the severity of the greens between Pinehurst and Oakmont. Obviously, the surrounds of the greens are completely different. And we do have 2 short par 4s, which they will make drivable at some point in the proceedings. 17 being the most notable. It's drivable almost every day. And it'll just be up to your strategy of how you want to attack that hole, because Big Mouth bunker exists there to the right of 17 green. And if you're in that bunker, you can't see any part of the green. That's so deep. I don't care who you are. It's a full, you're about a full story. You're in the basement of Oakmont. You're a full story below the level of that green in Big Mouth bunker. And it's not a lot of fun being down there, I promise.
Nice. Nice. Do you know when you'll have your, who you'll walk with when you get your pairings?
Well, I mean, I'll be with Smiley. So wherever you guys hear Smiley Kaufman's voice on the NBC broadcast, Thursday afternoon, Smiley does his set show on Friday. So I'll probably do 36 on Friday with the feature coverage with PGA Tour Live or Peacock or whatever streaming service we're using. Last year, I went with Billy Ray Brown in the morning, Aaron Oberholzer in the afternoon. Would love to go 18 holes with those 2 gentlemen again, or anybody else they see fit to send me with. And then Smiley and I will be probably in the next to last pairing on Saturday and Sunday. So look for the guy with this logo, black hat, black shirt, black pants. I'll be the only idiot at Oakmont wearing black head to toe the entire tournament. All black. It's just my uniform. I want to be a shadow out there. When you look at that fairway from that behind the green camera and they zoom in on the players, I want your eyes to go to the players, not to me. I don't want you to say, who's that idiot wearing that neon yellow shirt out there in the middle of the fairway? If I'm in all black, I'm just a shadow, and your eyes go to the subject that deserves your attention. That's the way I feel out there.
That's fair.
I like being like a ninja and working in the shadows.
So if I'm in all black, just a company man.
If you can't see me moving as a player or a caddy, then I'm doing my job. That's why I like all black. I like hiding in plain sight.
I love it. Well, all right, Drew.
Well, that's all for our U.S. Open preview show. If you guys are at Oakmont, give me a holler, say hey to me. I'd love to see a few of you out there on the fairways in Southwest PA. We are on Spotify, Instagram, YouTube. Thank you all from the Back Nine Brief for tuning in. Give us a listen, give us a like. Please subscribe, and please share these videos or these clips with your friends. And we'll keep bringing you the world of golf from my side of the bag.